congratulations on winning both the Supreme Award and the Most Innovative Award with the David Awards. It's so exciting. I've looked into your website and your business, and I haven't seen anything like it out there, or at least not in New Zealand. So, so cool in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's still a very foreign concept for local market anyway. I guess everyone's been kind of trained to see how things been done the same way, and everyone's just kind of used to it.
Well, what inspired you to start Spacebar Design?
The whole reason why we started Spacebar Design is really just once we kind of seen the first-hand impact of how much waste the construction and design industry, especially with interiors, is generating over like a life cycle of a space. To us, it just doesn't really make sense how we take resources, use them to build something, and then once it's served a particular purpose, in a few years' time, we'll just rip them all out and then we'll send them straight to landfill. Yeah, that's probably the biggest push for us to wanting to do something about it and make it more what we call circular, and actually creating space and giving people the ability to create new space without having to rip everything apart and just build new again. That we can actually just create still equally, if not more beautiful spaces, but that is modular, is designed so that it can be actually be repairable, is built for long-term value rather than the cost of initial implementation.
Yeah. I think it's so unique. Yeah, and it just opens up a space and lets people kind of be a bit more flexible as well. Yeah, I think it's really
Yeah,
cool.
100%, especially if you look at the schools and retail environment and office space even. The way that we work, the way that we learn, the way that we entertain thing is constantly changing. And if the space is not designed so that it can adapt and kind of accommodate for these changes, then it just becomes redundant. And then that's when people just say, hey, it might just be easier to rip everything out and build it again if that space wasn't created to be adaptable in the first place.
Yeah, if it wasn't fit for purpose. Yeah, you don't really think of that until I guess it comes to the point and the expense of when you have to rip everything out.
100%. Because originally, we're just creating all these really cool space for these awesome brands. They've got massive budgets, and they might be spending like close to a mil, 2 mil on a office fit out or a shop fit out. And then 6, 7, 8 years later, we'll get a call back. We'll go back to the place, rip everything out, send it straight to the landfill, unable to
Yeah,
reuse anything, and then we'll just spend another 2 million, $3 million do the fit out, and just it's crazy. But then
yeah,
no one was really questioning it at the time. I don't know if people either haven't thought about it, or they just didn't want to do it, or it's just not something that they're willing to try. Well, especially for the local market anyway. We have seen other examples overseas that's been doing it for a lot longer than we have here. But
mm,
yeah, I think it's just people don't know what they don't know. And until you've seen the full life cycle and impact, you don't actually realize how bad it is. Tons and tons of rubbish from one little space that goes to the landfill, and you're wasting resource, you're wasting money, and you're wasting time as well.
yeah. And it's interesting, I guess it's probably quite bold of you to sort of go into the space and kind of question it because for other providers, they would have seen it as cool. I'm doing another fit out and I'm getting that job, I'm getting that
Mm,
quote, whereas you're kind of taking a step back to be like, how can we do it? Like, obviously, you're still getting the work for it, but it's like a way where these kind of changes that are always happening don't have to go straight to landfill. I even
yeah,
see with houses, people, buying and selling houses and just ripping
yeah.
out stuff because it's their
It's
style
a
or.
yeah, it's a big issue with residential as well. Our primary target is commercial, just because
Mm,
we are an impact driven business, and at the moment, commercial has got a lot more impact in terms of scale wise. But if you look at residential, you're right. Like for kitchens, stuff is made out of like MDF or particle board. It'll only last you 5 years,
mm.
6 years before you can actually start to see physical damage. People don't really think about that when they first do a kitchen renovation. They're like, "Oh, sweet, that looks really cool." Um, year
Mm,
one, it looks awesome, and then year two, three, four, five, and then when it starts to break down, they're like, "Oh, it's looking a bit dated." So we need to
mm.
redo the kitchen again, or we need to refit it, or we don't really like the color, or it doesn't suit how the family uses the space anymore. And then they just spend everything. You much rather spend a little bit more at the beginning and fit something out that if you do want to update it, if you do want to refresh it in the future, you can actually change all the doors and we'll help you do that because everything what our system is designed to do is that you can actually, update the look, update the texture, update the functionality of it and keep the foundation the same. And it will save you money. Like at the end of the day, it'll cost you more to implement it, but over time, especially for property owners, it's kind of like a no-brainer once we can actually show them all the data, which we have collected over the past 6, 7 years. Most people make their money back within 5 years just because there's
Mm.
almost no maintenance costs. But there's if they want to update a space, cost them maybe like 1/3 of the price if they were to rebuild it.
Mm. Yeah, see, that's so interesting because I think a lot of people, well, those that do think about it, "Oh, can we reuse it?" They don't actually know where to start, so you guys are filling such a gap
Mm.
in a way that's more, um it is more functional, like you're not putting a Band-Aid on something, you're actually doing it sustainably, but you're doing it in a way that's actually functional.
Yes, yeah. We just like we said, we can't change what has been done in the past. But what we can do is help set a new cycle. You'll be surprised the amount of people that do care about the environment and how much waste we actually generate is actually it's a huge number and it's only growing. People are kind of
Yeah.
actively looking for solutions that's doing better. And we do see that as a big change and shift within the market.
Well, what's the most exciting development happening with your business right now?
I think the most exciting development at the moment is probably just seeing how we can have larger scale, like landlords or like schools, corporation, to implement our way of creating interior space and how that actually works with their business and their business model to save them costs and at the same time be able to help them create a lot more sustainable impact that can benefit their business as well. Yeah, just every day we're learning something new and every day we're trying to educate and pass on our learnings to our client so then they are aware of kind of what is happening.
Mm.
And then so at least when they make a decision, it's a lot more informed. And if they choose to do
Mm.
something, they know all the pros and cons about it. Where previously, a lot of times, I mean, now still, most of the time, when those kind of clients are asking for space, no one's really spending the time to educate them about why you should build it with different materials. Now that we've actually got the data to support our previous assumption, so then people can actually understand the benefits of it, as it's very rewarding and it's super
Yeah.
exciting to see people understand the impact they can actually have. Where previously people, when they think about they want to create a sustainable space, people have this misconception of saying, sustainable space always looks budget and might even
Yeah.
cost them more. Where we're saying, well, no, actually, if you do it properly, you make things more efficient and you're using less resources, you're creating less waste, and you're being future proof about the space. So you're preventing waste from happening in the first place. That is actually just all of that falls into being more sustainable.
Mm.
The fact that you can see the impact of our space that we've kind of done 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then they can adapt that and apply to their space. It's just super cool to be able to showcase this myth in a way that people can actually understand, even when they're from like outside of the industry. Like if you're just a property
Yeah.
owner or if you're just a commercial landlord. Yeah. So that's probably that's the most exciting things that's happening right now is that people are
Yeah.
finally trying, like, they understand it. And we spend maybe like the past 4 years just putting out educational pieces, posting
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, hoping people understand it and see that, you're not, if you do it properly, it's not going to look cheap. It's not going to,
Mm.
not necessarily it will cost you more. But and we've proven that with a lot of our projects where we've entered them into design awards. We'll have a kitchen that is on the same stage as people who's got multi-million dollar builds, and then our kitchen just costs maybe like 80K, and we're being judged on the same thing, and we've won the awards, and that kind of gives you a real case in saying it can look better and it's not always a trade-off if you want to
Yeah.
build more sustainable.
No, I love that, yeah, because that's the thing, right? That's people's assumption and maybe, like, the hurdle for them is it's gonna look all tacked together if it's sustainable, and it's not gonna be as
Mm,
functional. Yeah, I know, I've seen your designs, and they look amazing, like, people can't argue with the fact that it's sustainable, it saves you money in the long run, and it looks good
mm,
and functional. So, yeah.
exactly.
Why did you enter the David Awards, and what would you say to other businesses thinking of entering?
It was just something that someone has mentioned in one of like a friend of a friend. Um, because we've entered other awards as well, and that's kind of been working really well just to trying to create more of a brand awareness, and in return,
Mhm.
people are more willing to listen to us, to our educational pieces. And then to us, it was quite a every time we enter awards like the David Awards, or other awards, it kind of gives us time to reflect on what we've actually done. Not very often I'll sit down for maybe an hour and just look back at all the stuff that we've done, what we've done well, what we have done, what we've achieved, what we've kind of lacking, or all the strength and all the weaknesses that we kind of that's been happening for the past year. And it was just a real kind of humbling moment, I guess, to see what we've actually done, and to be able to, I guess, showcase the impact and the purpose of why were we doing what we're doing, in kind of almost in a selfish way. It's like you feel kind of justified that what you've
Yeah,
done is kind
no,
of right.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess to other businesses, I think, yeah, not for the awards, not for the recognition, but even just for the moment of reflection, I think that's probably worth it, because it gives you an excuse to actually spend an hour to reflect what you've done. And I don't know, you might be surprised. You might think the ideas that you're doing is too little to make a difference, or it's too small that for anyone to care. But it might be exactly what people are looking for at the moment. And
Mhm.
unless you've kind of put it out there and talk about it and showcase it, no one's ever gonna really pick that up and understand, oh, maybe this is not something that's too small to for people to care. It's actually something that is really could be really impactful.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, out of the winners that I've spoken to, it's so funny to hear them say, "Oh, it's actually, like, the process that has been the most rewarding." Because as a smaller business
Mm.
owner, like, you are like, a lot of people are so short on time, so to even have the time to kind of give yourself a pat on the back.
It's always more about the process and the journey of which you do something that makes the result mean something. Otherwise, if you just jump straight to the result, it doesn't really mean a lot, to be honest. If you just kind of being placed at the top, and without the journey, without the story, it's kind of meaningless. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Well, I know that's what the David Awards really reflects on, like, having met the judges and, spoken with Heather, like, they are all about that process and the progress. Like, you don't have to be the biggest business, but it's how much
mm.
passion you have for your business and how much effort you've put in, and, it's not always the bottom line. My last question was, what's next for Spacebar Design?
Um, I think what's next is we're we're kind of in the process of actually scaling a lot of our solutions now that we know and have proven that it works. But at the same time, I think scaling to us is not just about going bigger, but it's about going deeper. And actually, how do we influence people to make a better decision? And I think that's probably going to be, we'll still be doing the work, we'll still be doing all the cool projects, and you'll have opportunity to showcase our products and solutions. At the end of the day, I think if you can make people care about what you do, naturally they will just support you along the way. And it's not about it's not necessarily so much about we don't have to do every project. Like we're not out there to try and take every office fit out. We're not out there trying to take every school fit out. We're out there and trying to get the industry to change. And if
Mm.
people were coming to us and said, we want to build more sustainable, I say, cool. Like, here's what you can do. Nothing that we do is secretive. It's more saying, how can we attract and kind of influence people wanting to do it the right way. Well, not the right way, I guess a better way. Yeah, I think this is what is the best way to influence people psychologically and getting them to understand so then they can also become advocates. So then they will spread the words. And I think once the market and all the clients start asking these questions, then the industry will have to follow. They will have no choice but to accommodate and change.
Mm.
But in order for the industry to change, we need to first educate the end client so then they can start asking the right questions. So then people can start coming up with the right answers. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we will focus on.